often get accused in the environmental world of sort of being very dire and talking about the worst case scenario, or even best case scenario, which is still very dire in a lot of respect. How do we get beyond that instead of just shooting for like adequate public transportation services or maybe minimal safeguards for coastal communities? How do we espouse a vision of what a truly resilient future looks like? What does that look like to you, I would say? Are there going to be a lot more farmers? How do we envision that really resilient future, not just the best of what we can do?
Things I think we need to do as a nation is to change our national narrative. And by that I mean the solutions that we come up with to these dire issues sometimes are ludicrous. You know, again, there's someone here who could speak to this far more articulately than I could, which is John Boothroyd, who's, you know, a geologist of well-known repute. But we do things such as say, well, let's build a wall. Let's, you know, let's just keep the ocean from getting at us, or and we come up with all of these kinds of solutions. Some of the things that you've described, yes, they're great things to do. And, you know, I mean, when you ask what I do, I'd certainly like to clone you guys. I think that would be a terrific step in the right direction. But it's terribly problematic when we, you know, when we come up with solutions that are technologically just ludicrous investments. And there's a lot of that kind of thing that's happening, you know. We see the Army Corps coming forward with an awful lot of projects that are just dumb. You know, they're based on science that doesn't speak to the occasion. So I think that one of the things that we need to do is grow up a little bit, and in the same way that prior to World War II, FDR spoke to the American people and said, we don't have enough planes or tanks or anything to win this war. And that, unlike many of the wars we get engaged in, is a war that we I think, had to engage in, and that we definitely had to win for a number of reasons. And winning and losing was a possibility at that time in a war. But I think that basically what we see through history is that the effort in World War II and the accomplishments of the American people went way beyond what FDR predicted was possible. Because people said, we can do this. They convinced themselves that can do was an American trait. The problem is right now that the thing that we are using as a national narrative is another one of our iconic phrases, which is Americans don't retreat. Well, when it comes to the shore, we damn well better retreat. And we should be retreating a lot faster than we're currently doing it. Because what we're doing essentially is saying, well, we're going to stay here as long as we possibly can. So we make sure that we're going to have, you know, debris that is floating inshore to cause more problems, that we make sure we have enormous economic impacts from this, and that we make sure that we have casualties or injuries or things of this sort. So I think that a lot of what we need to do is to say, you know what, this particular thing is defeating us in the following ways, so here's what we have to do to change in order to make the future a better thing. And one of the things that we can do is to get out there and get people to vote for the bond issue that's coming up on green infrastructure, you know? Another thing we can do, may I make a shameless plug? I mean, the shameless plug seems to be in today, yeah. Right? Okay, here comes my shameless plug. One of the things we just did, there was a group of us who developed this, and I'm not doing this because I'm a professor, I'm doing this because I want you guys to remember it. We developed a website, and this website is for the purpose of not educating you, but educating that annoying cousin or uncle or whoever it is that comes to your house for holiday dinners and sits there and says really stupid things about climate change. Like this is a scam to make scientists rich. Or have you read Michael Crichton's book, State of Fear, that proves that climate change is a lot of hooey? And even when Meg made the comment, which is absolutely legitimate, that there's uncertainty when it comes to climate change, you want to make sure that people understand what is meant by uncertainty. 97% of climate scientists are absolutely convinced that climate change is real and that it is anthropogenic or man-made by nature. So that's pretty solid. You know, that's solid. They're uncertain. What they're uncertain about is, will the storm surges that we see, if we have another 1938 hurricane, have us see, you know, is it going to be 20 or 30 feet of water? We're not sure about that. Some scientists are quite sure based on their model, but another scientist may have another model. That's the uncertainty. The uncertainty is not climate change. I don't know if I'm even answering your question, but anyway, the point is, we developed this website so that you could take something that transfers the scientific information about climate change to the people who are thoroughly disbelieving or uneducated, and they don't get it. They don't get the difference between weather and climate. They don't understand scientific uncertainty. They don't understand what all the impacts are. They don't understand what they can do, and they don't understand what the government is doing for them. They don't understand any of those things. And a lot of people, of course, say, we don't want more government. Well, let me tell you something. When there's an emergency, everybody wants government. You ever see anybody hold up their hand and say, no, government, keep away? Don't save me? That's a rare occasion. Anyway, so this is, it's www, obviously, this is not very good, climatechange.org. This is the thing you want to spread it around to your friends, and I won't. And you want to spread it around, and you want to get it to the people who are part of that 57%. Yeah, you know, part of the rest of the crew that doesn't believe that climate change is real or doesn't understand what the impacts are on their lives. So it's not a happy story, but we tried to tell it in a somewhat entertaining way.